central incisor. The lower central incisor is the smallest tooth in the dental arch. Also, the lower central incisors located in the middle or in the middle of the mandible. The lower central incisor, because it is very small, so from the beginning, try to decrease the size of the block. This would save time. Also, you should read the tooth before you come and carve it. This makes carving easier. This is the lower central incisor. From the labial aspect, from the lingual aspect, mesial, distal, then incisor. We always start carving with the mesial and distal aspects. This is the mesial aspect. If you see here, the labial outline is convex till the crest of curvature. The crest of curvature here is in the center of the cervical third. Here and here, the crest of curvature. Then, the labial outline goes sloping quickly till it reaches the incisal edge. The incisal edge is lingual to the midline. Then, the lingual outline is slightly convex, slightly concave, forming a very shallow fossa, then slightly convex at the incisal edge. The root outline are straight and the apex is rounded. But you should check some points when you carve this tooth. Number one, the incisal edge is lingual, just lingual to the midline. Number two, the root outlines are parallel, straight and parallel in the cervical third and the middle third. And they are rounded, forming a rounded apex just in the apical third. Number three, you should check that the cervical line lingually is higher than the cervical line labially to the apical third, to the apical side with 1 millimeter. The measurements of this tooth. At the cervix, the lower incisor is about 5.3 millimeters. 5.3 divided 2 equal to 2.65. We said before, this is difficult. 0.65 is difficult to be measured on the graph paper. Look here, the crest of curvature is 6, 3 from each side. Again, 5.3, what shall I do with 5.3? Shall I add 7 millimeters and it becomes about 3 millimeters from each side? This is wrong in this case, because here the crest of curvature, which is 6, will be equal to the cervix. Actually, the crest of curvature always more and larger than the cervix. In this case, I'm going to make 5.3 just 5 only. So 2.65 will be 2.5 from each side, in order to keep the crest of curvature larger than the cervix. Then the crest of curvature in the center of the cervical third, 3 millimeters from each side from the midline. Then put the point of the apex of the root centered over the midline. The incisal ridge or the incisal edge is lingual, just lingual to the midline. If you want to draw the cervical line, you can measure from the midline about 3 millimeters. But we always prefer to keep this step in the end of the carving. The crown here is 9. The root is 12.5. So I can divide 9 divided 3 equal into 2, 3, 3, 3. Now I'm going to start carving the lower central incisor. This is my block. I'm going to measure 9 plus 12 and half equal 21 and half plus 1 millimeter, 22 and half. You should decrease the size of the block before carving, especially in this case, because the tooth here is very small. Then join the line all over the block to be sure that the length of the tooth equals in each side. Here I'm going to cut the block, then I'm going to decrease the size of the block. Smooth the surface, then measure the block to be sure that the block now is 21.5. Now I'm going to decrease the size of the block, which is very important in this tooth. From all sides, the surface should be smooth. Now the crown is 9 and the root is 12.5, 9 millimeters. Divide the 9 into 3/3, each one 3 millimeters. From the other side or the opposite side, I'm going to put the same marks here and this side and the opposite side here. Then join the lines all over the block. Now I'm going to draw the mid line. Measure the width of the block, divide it into 2 equal sides. From the other side or the opposite side, I'm going to do the same. Join the midline all over the block. Here's my block, ready to draw on it. The lower central incisor from the cervix, the labial aspect at the cervix is 2.5 from each side. 1, 2, half, 1, 2 and half. Then the crest of curvature is in the center of the cervical third. It is 6 millimeters, so 3 millimeters from each side. Then put 2 marks, one on the apex of the root, centered over the midline, and one just lingual to the midline, which is the incisal edge. The same steps, I'm going to do it on the other side. The cervical line, 2.5 from each side. Then the crest of curvature, 3 from each side. Then the mark of the apex of the root and mark of the lingually to the midline, this for the incisal edge. Join the lines at the cervix. The labial outline is convex from the cervix to the crest of curvature. Then it slopes down easily, quickly, to form the incisal edge, which is lingual to the midline. The lingual outline is convex, slightly concave, forming a shallow fossa, and then slightly convex, forming the incisal edge. The outline of the root of the lower central incisors are parallel to each other, straight and parallel. This is characteristic for the lower central incisor. In the cervical third and the middle third, then they form round outline to form a rounded apex. Look here, the root is broad. Then I'm going to draw the distal outline, the distal aspect. Sometimes we don't draw, we draw just the mesial, then we make carving. But for beginners, as we said before, you should draw both aspects, the mesial and distal. The labial outline is convex from the cervix till the crest of curvature, then it slopes quickly till it forms the incisal edge lingual to the midline. The lingual outline is convex, slightly concave. Sometimes it is straight, then slightly convex again. The root outlines are parallel to each other, straight, then rounded at the apical, rounded in the apical third, forming a rounded apex. This is the outline of the lower central incisor from the mesial and the distal aspect.